United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, and the sea symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
I'll turn the time over to Commissioner Beard for the invocation.
Oh Lord, we thank you for the rain that has enriched our agricultural heritage here in Eddy County. We thank you for our businesses that have survived the COVID mandates and would ask that you would bless and have mercy on those that did not. We thank you for the abundant energy supply you have given us here in Eddy County, which creates jobs for our citizens and revenue throughout the state. We thank you for all our county employees who work hard to manage our county, fight the pandemic, fix our roads, and maintain our businesses, buildings. We thank you for the firefighters and law enforcement that keep us safe. We thank you for our citizens, as we in Eddy County are a bright spot in a national culture gone woke. If it be your will, Lord, we ask that you return our nation to the Christian roots we once enjoyed as a nation just a few decades ago. In the name of our risen Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Beard. Mr. County Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. Extend apologies for Commissioner Henry this morning. He won't be available to join us, and we welcome probate judge Francis, who is filling in for the county attorney, Mr. Tabor. We appreciate having Jay with us this morning. And Ms. Carroll is the deputy clerk. She'll be serving as the clerk this morning. County clerk, Ms. Rossman, is in Artesia with the voting and whatnot this morning. So I guess first note, Ms. Cook said early voting is open. So if you have the opportunity or the desire, the polls are open here in City of Carlsbad and up in Artesia if you'd like to vote. I had one comment. I was gonna do it during the county manager comments, but I think I'll just read it here. This came in, and it's for really a shout out for the clerk's office. It said, to whom it may concern, I just received my voter registration card, and it's the most well-designed card I've ever seen. I don't know who had input or picked a template or was the designer, but Pennsylvania, Florida, Missouri, Kansas, and Arizona could use some instructions. Missouri and Pennsylvania do not even tell you your districts. This is really wonderful. Thank you, Jenny Oakley. So, kudos. All right. We didn't receive any other written public comments. Are there public comments in the audience this morning?
Should we, it looks like, because we're going to open, is most everybody here for cannabis? Okay, so we'll have those in the cannabis public comments. Is that correct?
Right. So this would be other general public comments.
Okay, so other public comments other than cannabis.
Other than the two ordinances that we're looking at. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Seeing none, then we'll move to item 2, public hearing for ordinance 21-107, regulating medical and recreational cannabis establishments, other cannabis businesses, production of cannabis and cannabis products.
I'll entertain a motion that we open the public hearing 0-21-107.
I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
And Cross?
Yes.
All right. Mr. McCroskey.
Morning, Commissioners. So this is going to be the public hearing for the possible adoption of O21-107, regulating medical and recreational cannabis establishments within Eddy County. The Planning and Development Advisory Committee had met on August 8th of this year and August 25th at your direction to develop an ordinance for cannabis regulation. They did so in public meeting. This will be to regulate the cannabis industry as allowed under statute. We have received no public comment through our office on any of these items. I've seen some comments on Facebook, but none have come officially through our office, so I don't have anything to give you there. We have an accompanying resolution with this to adopt the fees and forms for it separately from the ordinance. With that, and I had spoken with Cass previously about this, there is one change should you adopt this and have the resolution. We left it as it was so that you guys could make the change in the meeting. Section 7B needs to be changed to state the cost of permit fees shall be established through separate resolution and adopted by the Eddy County Board of Commissioners. This permit fee is established and shall be non-refundable. We have a procedure for appeals in the ordinance to go along with that at the recommendation of San Juan County. There's also a variance procedure should somebody want a variance from the ordinance.
Mr. McCroskey, when the Planning and Development Group was establishing this ordinance, the notifications to the public about the steps in the process were published, and all of those notifications were taken. And when the board was meeting, you didn't have any additional input other than what the board had, the Planning and Development Board?
Yes, sir. And no, we did not have any additional comment from the public at those meetings.
Thank you. Any others?
Not for me.
All right. So the next item there is public comment. So 3-minute limit per person, and any public comment regarding ordinance 0-21-107. Morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Matthew Tanner, and I own Devolved Media, Gold Label Labs, and Stone Age Canico. I'm a property owner in Eddy County. Oh, sorry. I believe that these ordinances restrict my right as a property owner. There's no protections in the county for me that protect me from the smell of cow manure or having a oil-filled yard built right next to my property. So I feel like this limits what I can do with something legal, state legal on my property that I own. And I feel like it restricts my rights as a property owner. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Other comments?
Oh, thank you so much.
My name is Melanie Dean. I am the regional manager of Oso Cannabis Company. We are located all throughout this part of the state. We have 8 locations, looking to build about 15 very quickly with this. So I am completely against the ordinance that you are trying to do, and I want to read you something from the Cannabis Regulation Act. You cannot require an existing licensee at a licensed premises to relocate. And if you're trying to keep us out of the city limits, we're now at 1704 South Canal, you're trying to do exactly that. So you're going against the state. I completely 100% am against this, and I urge you to reconsider. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
morning, my name is James Badges. I'm a business owner here in Eddy County. I have 2 businesses. They're called Budboard Smoke Shops. I feel like there's a big disconnect between the commissioners and what the community needs that looks out best for industry and this community's farmers. Most of the ordinance are fair. We do got to protect our community. But the 300 feet from any residence, is there any commercial industry that has such a strict regulation around residences? I know alcohol has a little bit of restrictions to schools and churches. Fast food restaurants that put off an odor don't have any type of restrictions close to residents. A waste facility doesn't have any type of restrictions like that towards the residents. Like Mr. Tanner said, an oil field yard has a lot of hazardous things, and there's no type of ordinance district that goes against that type of residence. Now, it being close to churches and schools, 100% get that. That's fair. That's in line with alcohol. But being so much stricter over alcohol is an overstep on what the state's written. The state's written it so we actually have a chance to kill it in this industry. You guys are trying to make it so hard to operate a business. There's no opportunity to thrive. With that 300-foot rule from any residence, it ensures it's being impossible to do business. There's nowhere that you can do business. You have a 5-acre plot you'd have to do, and you can only operate on the center acre. That's crazy, guys. That's crazy. And I know you guys want what's best for the community, so I looked up a few stats that have some positive social impacts. As you guys know, opiates are killing this place, absolutely killing. So if we can do anything to counter-effect the opiates, I think you guys should run towards it. I read here that opiate-related prescriptions dropped by 12.1% on states that mandated a new legislations and counties that made it more accessible, and that's medical and recreational. Also you saw an overall call rate, whether that be emergency rooms, police call-outs, overdoses, down by a total of 24.1% whenever the state put in legal legislation. Also saw that high school students that have used once over the last 30 days are down by 9% with states that have legalized. I mean, this is also with educational facilities, but that also bans, y'all's ordinance also bans those facilities as well. You guys got to give us some type of latitude. DUI is a big problem in this state. Alcohol DUI has dropped by 12.1% in arrests, and as a whole, 4.3 in fatal accidents when cannabis comes up. I've also did a detailed research from the statistic professor at UW, as well as, the Drug Alliance Corporation did a micro neighborhood analysis, shows the reduction in crime by 17 crimes per month per 10,000 residents. And that's with communities that directly support a dispensary with 0 spillover to the surrounding areas, 0. Also shows, as well as property damage went down 11%, which shows if a dispensary is in that neighborhood, that brings $30K to social impacts per dispensary. So I would think that'd be something that you guys would want. As well as not even talking about tax dollars. I think each micro business could probably employ anywhere from 15 to 25 people on the minimum. That's a lot of jobs in this zone. So next time the oil field busts, we have at least something we can fall back on. As well as the security, not even counting the tax and what that tax is going towards. It's going towards schools, community engagement, social impacts, rehab facilities. I just would like it to be fair and some opportunity to succeed, and I would hope the county leaders would help us do so. Thank you guys for your time.
Next.
Yeah, one thing when we're doing comments, make sure that we're not repeating the last comments. I know that we went over time there, and I allow Mr. Badges to no. You were stating you had statistics and good facts. I thought was pertinent, so we kept going, but we'll just know that kind of going forward. So, thank you guys.
Danny Ryan, local resident, business owner, combat Marine veteran. Actually got off opiates because of marijuana. I will go to my death praising what they can do. The VA put me on opiates. Thank God that this state has medical marijuana and now recreational marijuana program. My problem it says is again, like every one of these property owners, you're restricting my right as a property owner. My next door neighbor can burn his burn barrel, it can grow right in my house, which is proven to cause cancer. And there's no restriction, no ordinance saying that, oh, he can't burn it because it's his property and that's the way it should be. If I want to grow property on my, or I want to grow marijuana on my property, there shouldn't be anybody telling me I can't. Out in the county, in the city may have different ordinances on that, but when we're talking in the county in the wide open, I can have an oil field yard right next to me, I can have a dairy farm right next to me, and there's not going to be an ordinance on it. This is a legal business that our state has now said is legal. Why are we throwing ordinances on it that are going to make it harder to bring more money and more tax dollars into this community? Thank you very much.
Next.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's Kiki Weston, and I've been a nurse for about 30 years. In that time, I've worked med-surg, oncology, and even some hospice. So I've had the opportunity to see the growth of medicinal cannabis. Most recently, I've developed an interest in our opioid crisis, which I think we all have. And the nearest rehab, outpatient rehab that offers counseling and medication to help you get off opioids is in Roswell. I don't know very many drug addicts that are going to get up and go to Roswell every morning. We're seeing a huge effects with the use of marijuana to get these opioid addicts through the withdrawals and to keep them abstinence with no relapse. More and more doctors are prescribing it. As you all know, we see the medical cards, but we're making it so hard. We have an impending shortage of marijuana, so we need to make it a little bit easier so that we have these products for these people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to bring my baby. Hello, my name is Libby Smith. I've actually been working in the cannabis industry since 2017 as I worked in dispensaries, and recently I had a baby, so now I do consultations on the side. So I know just about everybody in town that is affiliated with the program or has their card. Being a patient and then working in it professionally, I have seen miracles. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. From people coming off of opiates or any kind of, for me personally, autoimmune medications for those kinds of diseases, and it has made a huge difference in my life and people I know as well. I think that it would be a huge disservice to our community not to give this a really good chance and a go. If it's, education we need, hi. I'm happy, and I know there's other people in this room that I have worked with that would love to provide the kind of education and knowledge to our community rather than just push it to the side, because I think it's misunderstood. And I think, with a really great education program and some knowledge, we can change some minds, we can make a difference. It's not just all about oil field here. Yes, that brings in so much to our community, but cannabis is special, and if we can get some open minds and some things to change, it can make the most positive difference. Like I said, not just everybody in this room sitting here, but so much further, because these are good people. We're not stoners, we have jobs, we are just looking for an alternative to what's just been pushed at us. So like I said, I would love to provide some sort of maybe educational program, something to really help people understand what this is, if that's maybe part of the problem, which I think education and knowledge is absolute power when it comes to this really awesome, I don't even know, magical plant that we have the opportunity to use to empower our community and bring in some funds for other things. So again, I just think that something like an educational program would be really beneficial, just to kind of, get everybody comfortable with it. That's my piece.
Thank you. Good morning.
My name is Joanna Wells, and I'm with the Carlsbad Community Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition. I've been with the coalition since 2010, been working in this field since 2005. We are in support of the ordinance for multiple reasons. Statistics show from Oregon and Colorado and Washington, when they passed legalization, that they had a high increase in poison control calls. For this, more people were exposed to the toxicity of cannabis. I just want to go back to what I've heard. We understand the medicinal need for cannabis, but we're not in support of recreational. They talk about how it works to overcome opioid addiction, but that's just a harm reduction. You're just substituting one addiction for another addiction. So it's a harm reduction in an addiction. You can still overdose on marijuana. We see with fentanyl right now, how if it's in the home, youth are exposed to it in the home. If it's in a public place, you're still exposed to it in a public place, and it gives youth the ability to have contact with that. The human brain continues to develop till the age of 25, as well as their lungs. And so even though it's legal at 21, there are still ramifications to the body, the developmental body, for using cannabis. So even though there might be some harm reduction benefits to it on a recreational basis, it's not in the best interest of our community and our citizens to have this be in close proximity to our youth. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name's Travis Ryan. I'm a local business owner. Live Leaves are us. And the stipulations y'all are putting on us on top of the state is ridiculous. Y'all are compacting it, and if you move people outside of the city, what's going to happen inside? The ones that are doing the wrong are going to prosper, because people ain't going to go out of town. Y'all are increasing the problem instead of curing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dr. Terry Crawford. I've read the ordinance and I'm in favor of 99% of it. The only portions of it that I see that are somewhat restrictive have to do with the 300-foot rule and some of the fencing requirements and things like that. I truthfully think this should be have ordinances similar to alcohol establishments rather than singling cannabis out to be isolated. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Yvette Leos. I'm actually been fighting this medical cannabis stuff since 2009. I worked psychiatry for 10 years. Dr. Musselman and I did really fight to endorse for PTSD. In 2009, we got it approved. Carlsbad Mental Health was able to do it. So I have seen many, many good things that come out of this. After we became intrigued of it, I decided, okay, I'm gonna join the medical cannabis. So I was actually the first employee with the first dispensary here in Carlsbad. 426 patients, and Libby could justify that for me. That's who I took care of personally within 2 years. Unfortunately, I had to quit due to my husband's profession. It came from elected officials as well as brought to the attention that my job was a conflict of interest due to him being in law enforcement. So being the wife I was, I resigned to save his retirement. Now I'm walking in as a brand new person and as an owner of my own dispensary. You guys do not get how beneficial this is. My youngest patient was 12 weeks gestation. A doctor took mama off pills, put her on cannabis, sent her to me to safely guide her. Safely. My oldest, 90 years old, hospice. She survived, I want to say 8 months. And the stories that come behind the scenes, you guys are saying pothead. No, guys, it's wrong. I've seen so many people go through my back door of the dispensary. Again, Libby could, that's facts. People who didn't want to be seen, who are professionals that you guys probably know, were going through my back door, or I was delivering to their homes because of the stigma. Lift the ordinance, guys. I'm telling you right now, this is good medicine. And these guys that are behind me right now, I've worked with a few of them for years. We're not here to destroy the community. We're actually here to help. And if you guys want my number, I'll give it to you. I'll educate you guys. I've been doing this since 2009. And my 2 partners, which they're going to stay silent, they are professional medically and business-wise. That's all I have to say.
Good morning.
My name is Tiffany Shirley, and I am here on a professional capacity with the Carlsbad Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition, also on a personal capacity as a business owner and a pastor. I've worked with youth pretty much my entire life since I was a youth, and so I am not here to debate legalization. We know that's already been decided. We just want to make sure that we do everything possible to protect those future generations and to do this in a way that is most beneficial for our city. Not trying to run off anyone that's here to do something positive, but I do appreciate the ordinance as written and just wanted to express my support for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
My name is Samantha Smith, and I am here on behalf of the Anti-Drug and Gang Coalition, and I am for the ordinance as stated.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Well, how are y'all doing today? I almost didn't come today, but I felt...
Could you state your name, please, for the record?
My name is Joey, for the record. Joey Olivo Olivas, former co-owner of a business. And honestly, I was going to come today, but I felt I needed to hear both sides. Because I am representing the voice of the voiceless, the people that ain't here. You know, y'all talk about the rise of crime and what it can do to this community. Newsflash, it's already done. Fentanyl's here. I see it. I can see y'all look in my eyes. I'm in there. I see it. I see it every day. I got a friend who died 2 minutes before his shift. Waiting for him. Oh, no. The guy died in the car. Who was it? Oh, side note, it's your friend. My sister, she died in June. I could go on. I had a circle of people around me. I'm the last one left. Do y'all really want to restrict this? Because I can tell you, you know, a hard truth. It's already here. It's already bad. This only good can come from it. You still, you abolish it, it's not gonna stop it. I can tell you right now, I lived on that side of the crime. It didn't stop me. I could care less what y'all decide to do, because I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And a perfect example is this government's running this country just like you are gonna do to the state. You need to consider what is actually good. You know, look at how bad Opiates is. I guarantee y'all know somebody close and personal that is struggling with it. I guarantee, because I know people that have told me who people are. You know, it's not just in the streets, it's business owners. People high up there. Why do you think I get so much protection? You know, guys, I want to be on y'all's side. You know, I'm someone that never wanted to even look from y'all's perspective. I didn't respect it, because all I ever got from it was negativity. But no, guys, come on, let's all work together. That's the only way this is gonna work, really. If all for one and somebody doesn't like the outcome, they're not gonna stop, just like we wouldn't stop. They're gonna continue to make it harder, but it's gonna get ugly. And then people start hurting people, and then nobody's in it for the best interests. And who suffers most? Not us, our kids. Our kids. So just consider that. I get it. There's got to be rules. There's got to be an ordinance. That's fine. Just follow the outline of everybody else, how they were treated. Alcohol. I'm not a drinker. I grew up around drinkers. I see how bad that is. So no, by habit, no. I won't. I'll refuse a drink. Just because I don't see no good in it. But does that mean I'm going to stop everybody from drinking? Oh, sorry about that. Appreciate it, guys. Well, have a good day.
Any other comments? Seeing none, the next item there would be comments from the county attorney, comments and questions. Mr. Francis.
I have no comments or questions.
All right. Commissioner, comments and questions.
I want to thank everybody for coming and expressing their passion for what you believe and what you've seen. I know that this is a divisive topic among many people. I don't know how deep you want me to get in on my comments here. I'm a medical provider in this community, and I understand the passion of why medical cannabis is helpful. I have seen that as well. I appreciate you coming forward and saying that we understand that there have to be rules and boundaries and guidelines. I understand that from a medical perspective. You know, make no mistake, this is a medication, it is a drug, and it deserves that same kind of regulation as other things do. I think that you brought some very valid points to the table. I feel that it may be in our best interest, because I do think education on this topic is important from the people that are out in the community doing this work, who are talking with these individuals and seeing these individuals on a daily basis. I think a lot of us don't have an appreciation for that. With what was brought forward today, I do have questions myself on what our ordinances are for things like alcohol and other substances and marijuana compared to that. For myself, I feel like I would like to have a little bit more of an education on that. You know, kind of see what are those restrictions for those other modalities. I'm not prepared to make a decision one way or another on signing this ordinance today. I would like to have a little bit more information on that before I make a decision on this ordinance. I don't know if it's something we could do to decide to table this for today until we just have a little bit more information. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I just don't feel that I'm in a position to where I can make a finite decision today on this. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson.
Well, had a couple comments I wrote down. you know, one of the things is, Mr. Ryan brought up the fact that it's, and this has nothing to do with this other than the fact, I know for a fact that if you're burning your trash on your property, it's against the environmental regulations, and they will come out and give you a ticket for that.
You received one?
Yeah. So, you know, that's the one thing, and I don't think we're here today to decide whether somebody should or shouldn't smoke marijuana. I think the legislature has made that decision. What we're here today to do is set down a set of regulations that not only protects the cannabis growers, but also protects the people in the community, the otherwise people. And I think that one of the two things that I heard that seemed to be a real stickler is the 300-foot rule, that variance. I think that was the big stickler on the deal. But I also did hear when Steve was talking about that can be appealed on a variance. Is that not correct, Steve?
Correct.
Yeah. So and then it would be considered on an individual by individual basis, right? So people are not pigeonholed into the 300 foot. They have a process in which they can go out and then that would give, that also gives the surrounding people that are around them a chance to voice whether they're okay with that or they're against it in their very small area of that neighborhood. I want to call it a neighborhood. Is that not correct?
Correct, through the variance procedure.
So that, I mean, in a variance, is that not right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody would get a voice as to what they thought of that variance that live in that area. So, I mean, I think that that's the whole, my whole deal is if you have a chance to contest it and bring it before a panel that's going to be impartial, that there is, and I'm assuming, would that be this commission?
The commission or the planning and development group?
I think it's set in y'all's ordinance, so I can get to it right quick.
The planning and development would make a recommendation to the commission to ratify it. Anyway, the ultimate say would be within the hands of the commission.
We would make the ultimate decision.
Right.
You know, and I think that that's going to be based on the testimony received in support and opposition to the variance. So, you know, I think that there is a process there. And I think that that is the big stickler. That's the stickler that I would have. You know, these guys, they have a right to grow just like everybody else, but there should be a protection and in the community in which they're growing, and if there's that much opposition within that little place, then, you know, the variance wouldn't pass. If there's not, then the variance would pass and we'd go about our business. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Beard.
I'm kind of on board with Commissioner Cordova. I think there's been some good points made here about this goes above and beyond the restrictions on alcohol, on some other stuff. I think if we pass this thing as is, we're setting ourselves up for a lawsuit somewhere down the line. I think we need some more thought and some more consideration on this. I mean, in the beginning, the discussion was, you know, we're not going to go above and beyond the restrictions on alcohol, and it seems to me with this 300-foot rule on odors and what have you, that we are going beyond that. You know, I wasn't in favor of the state legislation at all, but it's here, and we got to live with it. I'd like to, I'm with you, I'd kind of like to table this for some further education,
points that were brought up today are pretty good and valid points, and I appreciate everybody willing to stand up and say what you believe. I didn't hear anything. I believe opioids. I know opioids are a terrible, terrible tragedy that's happening daily in many people's lives, and the statistics that we're given have shown that that marijuana can maybe help with some of that. Well, if those are true facts, then I support that 100%. But I don't see how recreational marijuana would inhibit somebody from being able to use that. I don't see how recreational marijuana would I don't see anybody that would need a medical card. Let's see, how am I trying to say that? You guys know what I'm trying to say, right? If you have that, no, you don't know what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me see what I can clarify. If you have that need, you can get a medical card and get marijuana as is today. You don't need, recreational marijuana doesn't have anything to do with that, because you already have access. You already have access to the drugs. No, thank you, appreciate it though. So going along with Commissioner Carlson, if there's an appeal process and that can come before, and we can appeal it, and you could submit individual applications for a variance, that's really what I support, because I have to support your right on your private property, and I also have to support the right for the residents around you to maintain the value of their property. And so when I make decisions, I have to base those on certain principles, and the principles are protecting your right to grow your crop and protecting the citizens' right who that would impact. And so I'm really not in favor of tabling. I think the ordinance is good as written and allows a little bit of latitude in a variance and that application process, and you can come to and submit a variance and go through that process, because anybody that needs medical marijuana today can get it. If you're on opioids, you can go and get, I'm sure Dr. so-and-so, I don't remember who, Terry Crawford maybe it was.
Sir, I don't have a DEA license that allows me to prescribe marijuana. Just
Okay.
FYI, it's a class 1 drug federally. I have never had that ability to do so. Most of the marijuana that is prescribed currently is done by nurse practitioners.
Okay, so you can go to a nurse practitioner, I believe, and get
For $150.
No idea.
So now,
Okay.
now a junkie's gotta pay $150 to go get his fix that's legal.
It only
Okay.
takes 2 weeks to become dependent on opioids.
Okay.
Any of us who have a major surgery, we risk that. Once a dependent person becomes an addict, they are not able to function enough to go to a doctor's office to get the prescriptions.
So
But right now, the biggest thing is we are going to have a shortage of marijuana, and we are making it harder and harder to produce that product.
yeah, no, I don't think that's I don't think that's true at all. I think what will happen is you'll go out and you'll buy marijuana one time from a dispensary, and then we've created essentially a legal market, and now you can go out and get it from anywhere, and you have a receipt showing that you have, that you're legal to do it. So we're done with public comments. Thank you very much. So no, sir, we're done with public comments. Do you understand? Thank you. So we do appreciate all the facts that have been given. I am in support of the ordinance as written. Maybe we have Commissioner Cordova and Commissioner Beard who would prefer to table the ordinance. I don't know where Commissioner Carlson would be, but I would like to pass the ordinance as is. And so I guess, do we have any
So
other
the next
comments?
item would then be to entertain a motion on what you want to do with the ordinance.
I'll entertain a motion that we approve the ordinance 0-21-107.
I make that motion.
I have a motion. Dies for lack of second. What is the other motion that would like to be made?
I would like to make a motion to table ordinance 0-21-107.
I'll second that.
I have a question before we vote on that.
Yes, sir.
What happens if we don't have the required votes?
If you don't have the required votes, you don't have an ordinance, then the state ordinance applies, which has a restriction on from schools and churches, I believe, but doesn't have anything dealing with residency or some of the other things you've put in your ordinance. Of course, the state's not coming out with their regulations, I don't think, till like April of next year, so you don't want to table this for long. But if you want to have some other control other than what the state has in their regulations, you got to get an ordinance passed. So you can always table this till next month, but I wouldn't put it off much past that because you're going to start running out of time.
If the ordinance dies, then you'd have to redevelop a new ordinance.
And then republish it and jump through all the same aspects.
I have a question. If we do table this and bring it back in a month, can we change any portion of this in the meantime?
Yes.
We just have to make the appropriate public notifications of the change of ordinance, publish the ordinance 2 weeks in advance of the commission hearing, and then go through this process one more time.
Will there be any more opportunities for public comment or public meetings if we table this?
Yes.
You'd have to go through the same process.
Yeah, you do the exact same thing. You've tabled it. If you amend it or don't amend it, when it comes back up next for the vote, whatever's been published as the ordinance is going to be voted on at that meeting, the public once again is allowed to make comments on any changes, or if there's not a change, why there should have been.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say one thing. I think something that a lot of folks missed, and because I've read a lot of Facebook comments, we're friends on Facebook, and this would, and I'm not arguing for or against, this applies only outside city limits. There's been some folks bring up some stuff about what it would impact from city limits. The county commission does not regulate what goes on inside the city limits.
That's right.
So I just wanted to clarify that because some folks made some comments. So I hopefully that clarifies that a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair.
You have a motion unless there's further comments.
We got a motion and a second. So, and that motion is to table, correct? That's what we're at. If we don't pass.
I'd make one more comment. I'm very much in favor of some kind of an ordinance. I think we need some kind of control. But I do not think we can go above and beyond some other ordinances. I think.
Well, the state statute says you cannot be more restrictive than what the state statute is.
And I do think we will be challenged in court if we go with this as written.
So then what's the purpose of having an ordinance if we can't be more restrictive than the state ordinance?
Well, the state ordinance only has you restricted from certain establishments such as schools and I believe churches. For residents, you have your ability to do, say,
Well, isn't that more restrictive?
Well, no, because the state doesn't have anything. They allow the municipalities to make that regulation. You just can't say you can't have it with anywhere, or you couldn't, as Commissioner Beard said, you can't say you can't be within 2 miles of a residency. They would say that would be overly restrictive with the purpose of eliminating it.
Okay, but let me ask you this question. So, have you read the ordinance?
I've looked over this ordinance today.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it more restrictive than what the state ordinance is?
I do not believe so.
We'll go ahead and keep order, please. Thank you. We're going to have a discussion.
If somebody wanted to set up a micro brewery club outside the city limits, would this same ordinance apply?
No, this only deals with cannabis.
Okay, so is there an alcohol ordinance?
We would have to approve that.
We would have to approve.
We would have to approve.
So that would be the same deal as the variance that is available.
But we don't have an ordinance for anything like that in place now as a county, as far as like a brewery or anything like that goes.
We haven't had an application for one, have we?
The only one we've done was was White City in the last 2 or 3 years.
That's a full-blown liquor license. What about the winery out on Artesia Highway?
That's been in place for a long time. I'm not sure the process.
Nobody around them, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, but I guess my question being is what Fred's bringing up and about the possible litigation on this deal. But I mean, the litigation would follow us being more restrictive than the state law.
Right.
And if we're not more restrictive, then what is our liability litigation like?
And I looked at this a little bit for the city of Artesia that adopted their ordinance last month. And what the main thing is, you can't have ordinances that are so restrictive that it prevents somebody from having the business. Yeah. So it'd be, the legal term would be arbitrary and capricious. So I don't think our ordinance is more restrictive than what the state says. The question is, could somebody say, by making our 300 foot from property line to property line, make it so there's no place in the county somebody could have the business, and therefore it's arbitrary and capricious because we've pretty much written out anybody having a marijuana business or cannabis business in the county. So that's the potential litigation is we've gone so far that even though we're under the guidelines of the state, it has the effect of eliminating all cannabis business.
If we have the option of a variance in our ordinance, does that affect that?
I haven't done any research on that. I would not. I'm sure it would have some effect on it. Because looking at your ordinance, it says that if they want to appeal the denial, they come before the commission. Y'all act as a trial. You determine if it should be variance or not. If you deny it, they are given another shot to appeal to the district court to say that once again the commission acted term arbitrary and capricious, and they should be allowed to have the variance. And please understand, all of this is new.
Yes.
I mean, every county, every city's trying to figure this out. The state's still trying to figure this out. So we're kind of learning as we're going. And there's a chance that within a year, y'all may need to amend whatever ordinance you finally pass once it starts working and we see what's going on. And you can always amend your ordinances.
So, you don't feel it's arbitrary and capricious? I mean, just in your legal opinion, you think that we're within the bounds here? We have the variance option in there. The legal counsel.
The only thing I worry about is we said from property line to property line. And let's say some rancher out there owns 14 sections and his house is 7 miles away, but his property line's right next to somebody that wants to put in a business. They're going to say, oh, our property lines are within 300 feet, but the houses are 7 miles apart. That could sound a little arbitrary. That's where your variance would come in.
Yeah. No way does Eddy County want to restrict private property rights for any citizen.
No, and we don't want to restrict the businesses like that either.
And that's the whole thing with, I think somebody mentioned, well, I got 5 acres, I got to shrink down into the middle acre. But if you own all 5 acres, your property line's out at the edge, and then all of a sudden you're making property line to property line. And so that was my only concern from a legal standpoint. And then you have to fall back on the variance, and then you have to tell your citizens, yeah, you can't do that, but trust us, we'll give you a variance. And then y'all all go off the board, and the next county commission comes in, and they said, no, we're not giving any variances.
Right.
Well, I know, like, just from my experience in the construction business, you can't set a crusher up, but it's from the point of residence to the unit.
Right. Yeah. Property lines have no property lines.
Property lines has
it's got to be a quarter mile for air quality.
Exactly.
Things like that. So there are.
Yeah, it's got to be X number of feet from the
physical
inhabited,
structure.
the physical structure.
Yeah.
That would make more sense to me.
We regulate distance all the time in oil wells and drilling locations, in air quality permits, in trash burning and things like that. That's
trash burning. That's a non-starter. Let me tell you from experience. You cannot do that.
But we regulate distance. We regulate distance all of the time. I mean, and we don't want to regulate any.
But I bet all those regulations on distances are based, once again, from a residence, the building of the residence. I know under the alcohol ordinance is from property line. So property line of a church to wherever the alcohol establishment is. But I don't know.
But that's covered under state law. And
right,
so
right, and that's
we have
because
to
of the
address
cities
that
where,
in our,
but
and that's in the city, because I don't know, there's very few churches out in the.
right. And that's where you run into, that's the only problem I see in the county is because people own large tracts of land, their house may be far apart, but their property lines touch, and all of a sudden they can't have a cannabis business even though they're.
Yeah, I don't care about the 300 foot from property. I would like it from structure.
That's what I was just gonna look to see if it said. It says, cannabis establishment must maintain a minimum separation distance of 300 feet from any residence, religious assembly, or church, library, cultural center, community center, public park, government facility. 300 feet separation distance does not apply to a school or daycare center or to a residence on the same lot or parcel as the cannabis establishment.
And then the next paragraph says how you measure that distance, number C. For purposes of this ordinance, distance shall be measured in a straight line from the nearest point of the property line of the lot on which the cannabis establishment is located to the nearest point of the property line of the residence. And I don't know what a property line is on a lot on a house that's sitting on 14 sections.
But we could amend that, couldn't we, in our motion?
We could approve it amending that to be.
Yes. Residence.
Point to point, yeah, instead of property line. I mean, I see that as a tremendous hole.
Because
I definitely see that as something we could do.
Your ordinance requires that all cannabis structures have to be a permanent structure. So you know it's going to be a physical building, and so you can measure from structure to structure.
So their structure could be 300 foot from the residential structure, not property line. And I think that gives you a better shape.
That's it does, and that's consistent with drilling rigs, with air quality permits, with whatever it is. I mean, that's consistent with everything.
And you know what? I mean, the cannabis people are not going to want to build next to a church anyway. Imagine.
But you have to deal with the first motion that's been seconded, which is to table it, and that can either be approved, and you can amend this for the next meeting, or you can deny that, or that motion could be voted on and fail, and then somebody can raise a motion to adopt this with the amendment.
All right, so now let me ask you that. You were telling me earlier that if this motion to table doesn't pass, then it ought to do is, can we introduce a motion to make it structure to structure, with the amendment of structure to structure?
Do we have to give notice on that if we're going to amend the ordinance in the?
I mean, we've done that before.
The commission has recognized that. I think the cleanest thing to do would be to publish the amended,
and then give it, in case there's other people that have some heartburn because they liked it with property line, they may not like it with structure to structure. So probably tabling it, amending it, renotice it, and voting on it the next.
With the recommendation that came from this discussion. So if the commission decided that was the course they wanted, then you would vote on the motion that's on the floor right now, with your which is to table, and then the action you could that you could give to the administration would be to amend the ordinance with the recommendation from this discussion, republish, and bring it back at a later commission meeting.
Well, I could support the tabling as long as we're talking about the amendment from structure to structure rather than property line.
So do we? So we don't have another action to vote on. Do we need to vote down the tabling?
I think you need to approve the tabling so it's still the ordinance that's sitting out there, and then instruct the administrator, just like Mr. Allen said, and then say, let's bring it up at the next meeting that will work based upon publication of the amended ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Al, what do you think about all this? You've been pretty.
I think that because this is new territory for the state of New Mexico, the legislation was purposely silent on a myriad of issues. I think, in my opinion, the legislators failed in that regard, but they didn't want to take it up because of the challenges. I think they were counting on local government governments, whether they're county or municipalities, to sort some of this out before it comes back in their lap. I know there's been a lot of effort and activity by multiple counties who don't have, like Eddy County, who don't have zoning ordinances in place to provide some regulations to how these businesses can work within their particular governance area. I know there's a lot of polar opinions about recreational cannabis. Medical cannabis has been established for some time. So I think it's important for Eddy County to have some rules in place about how any particular business, whether it's cannabis or liquor, alcohol, or even some of the industrial businesses that exist within our county, should operate so that their livelihood doesn't infringe upon or impact someone else's livelihood and interest. Eddy County has been a defender of personal property rights, but I think some of that defense has created some challenges for property owners. I think we have some issues now that are beginning to overlap and infringe on other property owners and their rights. Maybe this is some of the initial steps in coordinating that across the county. There's an immediate issue here because of the licensing that the state's initiating for new businesses. I think, as Commissioner Cordova said, alcohol's a drug, cannabis is a drug. I mean, there's lots of, and so how do we regulate those businesses that are allowed to sell those commodities in a manner that allows a business to do what they're going to do, but doesn't impact local citizenry negatively. So I think it's important to include the input that was received today from the public comments. And I think it's important to consider those folks that may not have provided input today, residents, business owners, and whatnot. So I don't think the regulations are overly, the ordinance is overly restrictive. We've leveraged the language from multiple other local governments to combine it into something that we thought fit for Eddy County. And that's included counties like Santa Fe and Sandoval and others, right, to try and find a fit for Eddy County. So I think the county does need an ordinance. I think the ordinance needs to fit the expectations within the community. I don't think you could not have an ordinance and leave it wide open. I think you'll regret that down the road at some point, and you'll have to try and claw some of that back. If you put something in place now at the beginning, you have a foundation and a baseline that you can modify as the community needs change. If you don't have something now, you're going to be left trying to unravel and sort out something that you should have been in front of initially. That's my opinion.
The one thing that I want to make sure that we do too, and not only address the building type stuff, but I want to make sure that we have in the preamble, if we're going to go back and rework this thing, I want to be in the preamble a definition of what area this governs, because it doesn't have, and as the sheriff says, I think we need to be very specific that unincorporated areas of the cities, it does not affect the stuff within their city limits. Because from the comments that I heard, and I heard several of them talk about in the city, even the cannabis organization, when they spoke, were talking about that we were going to affect based inside the city. If we didn't allow stuff inside the city, well, we can't allow stuff inside the city. That falls under the purview of the city council, and I want that to be very specific in whatever ordinance we do adopt as to what is the definition of the area that we are going to apply this ordinance to.
And to your point, it would be the unincorporated areas of Eddy County.
The entire county.
Yes, but we need to also define unincorporated, because I had several questions as to what does incorporated mean. And I think that if we make some definitions in the preamble to this ordinance, it just helps us down the road.
Sure. I mean, we could use words like city and village boundaries, municipality boundaries. We can get with Mr. Francis or Mr. Tabor and get those provisions in place to define what that means.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cordova, do the recommended changes to the ordinance address your concerns?
Somewhat. I would still like to review what the state statute is for medical marijuana, or for recreational marijuana. I would like to have an understanding of what that states compared to our ordinance. I mean, make no mistake, I agree with Al that we have to have something in place. You know, we have to, for your safety and for the community's safety. But I do support the amendments talking about changing from property line to structure to structure.
Let me ask you this question. Does it really matter now whether it's medical or recreational? Because from what I understood from one of the people I know that's trying to get a license to grow this cannabis, said that not only do they have to get a license, the new license, but the medical growers also have to get the new license. Is that not correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, and so there is not going to be a difference in the definition.
It's all one license.
That's right. All one license. That's what I'm saying. So there's not going to be a difference between medical and recreational.
Commissioner Carlson, if I may, there's one stipulation with it that what they're saying is that they're trying not, they made an attempt to keep from losing some of the focus on medical marijuana. So, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but you have to allocate a certain amount of your grow to medical marijuana.
Okay.
But that's if you get the license.
Yeah.
There's going to be one license.
For growth.
And if you get that license, you have to allocate a percentage of your growth.
A minimum
to medical.
Yes, sir.
So, but as far as the use of the marijuana, once these licenses are issued, everybody's legal if you're over 18. Over 21. Okay. But it's what, 3 day?
Except for me.
Yeah.
I can't. That's not allowed.
Right. But you see what I'm saying? There is not that. There's no difference between medical. As long as you're 21 years old, there's no difference between medical and recreational. You just get to use it.
Yes.
If you choose to.
It's different prices as well. There's a different tax structure between medical and recreational.
Yeah, but that's all about the state, right? That has no effect on us.
No.
I mean, yeah, because if I go in there and I decide I want some marijuana, if I don't have a medical card, I just got to pay whatever the top dollar is. That's the way it's going to hit. So there is going to be no differentiation, the way I understand it, between medical and recreational, other than maybe the price.
Medical's cheap. Medical's cheaper.
And you still have to have a card to be able to receive it.
Medical, yes.
On the medical side, but not on recreation.
So what's the difference?
And that's already passed, and that's not even contested, and we're not even trying to, I don't think in our ordinance, whether you smoke it or don't smoke it, our ordinance has nothing to do with that.
We're just trying to establish
The business
how the
side of it.
businesses can operate with.
That's all we're trying to do is clear the business side of it for Eddy County.
Right, this
And
ordinance
it's not
has
even the city of Carlsbad or the city of Artesia or the village of Loving. It has nothing to do with those areas because they have their own city councils or town councils, and they'll take care of that. And so, and that's probably where the dispensaries are gonna be, is in the cities itself. And so we won't have control over the dispensaries, I would imagine.
Yeah, okay. So, and if the board doesn't, we do need to get maybe one thing a little bit clear. As far as the tax structure goes in the state, they did an independent financial review of the benefit financially to the state of New Mexico that says medical marijuana will make about $75 million in the first 3 years that it's in, and it will cost about $60 million. So it would be a benefit of roughly $5 million. Yeah, roughly $5 million to the state, and that was the state that did that review. And so the Board of County Commissioners ain't going to sit here and pass up and say, oh, hey, we're going to make so much money to the or hey, we have no interest in doing it because it's not going to make any money. That's not our position at all. Or at least that's not my position. My position is I have to protect your right to run your legal business, and I also have to protect the citizens, the homeowners, the churches, the schools, everything around there. And that's my position. Well, I don't smoke marijuana. That's fine, but that's not my. I can't interject my personal. My personal feelings and thoughts in this thing because I have to protect you guys to run your business. That's my job. And I also have to protect everybody else that is affected by that and around that. So I like I don't like the property lines. I think that's, I don't like it at all. That's like you said, when you brought up the air quality permit, applying for air quality permits, I know exactly how it is. That is absolutely ridiculous if you've got to do that.
Yeah,
and you can't do property line to property line because you would never be able to do it.
You'd never be able to, excuse my language. You'd never be able to do anything, so property line to property line doesn't make sense. But still, I like the idea whether it's structure to structure or whatever, I like the idea that we have the section in there that allows for a variance, an appeal and a variance.
Absolutely, and there has to be because one cookie cutter deal doesn't fit every deal.
That's right.
I mean, it doesn't.
And that's one of the things that I've always had problems with the state because they're cookie cutters.
Exactly.
One thing they think fits everything, just like the ordinance to wear mask.
And like you said, Judge Francis, I mean, this is new. We're learning. We're trying to figure this out. And so I like the idea of being able to kind of take what was discussed today, amend the ordinance, and then we have the ability to amend in the future.
And I would thank Commissioner Cordova for instigating this discussion, which is something we have needed to have before we got here. But anyway,
well, you can't.
We can't have it because we're not thrown in state jail.
Yeah.
We'll go to jail, Fred.
So, but that's good. That's why we have discussion. So we have a motion and a second to table ordinance 021-107. Please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Okay.
So then the action that the board would like is to amend the ordinance with the recommendations from the discussion and then follow the process to republish the notification, which has to be for 2 weeks, and then bring this back to the commission at such time that the amendment, the publication windows criteria have been met. So that would potentially be the second meeting in November. We'll just have to look, but we'll.
And the first meeting, we would like to do that.
We can get it on the first. Get that information, like you
you answer that question?
Where is that information put as the public hearing?
The information regarding the public hearing will be on, regarding the date and everything will be on the.
Is that soon enough?
county
November the
website
16th?
under legal notices.
It should be, depending on how quick we can get the amendment made, because Commissioner Cordova also said she wants to look at the state ordinance. And you may suggest if anybody else has any other, because you know, that was the big concern, was the distance from houses. But you might mention to anybody speaking, if they have any other issues, they may want to call their commissioner to say, can you look at this to see if anything else could be put in or not put in?
That's a good
And a big deal to me is gonna be that preamble.
Well, and
So we could amend the agreement, or we could amend the ordinance in the coming week, and if we published it next week, 12th or 13th, we would then have 2 full weeks before the November 2nd commission meeting, which is the first commission meeting in November. So
We don't want any grass grow.
yeah, so we would bring this back on a month from now on November 2nd, as amended.
And based on what Commissioner Carlson said, we can go in under paragraph N on the preamble that describes what the county is, and we can maybe, because it talks about incorporated municipalities, corporate, and.
But you gotta define what that is.
Right, we can add that in that paragraph N.
Yeah. It's gotta be very clear and concise as to what that is, because, I mean, you can tell from, the comments that we got today that even the cannabis organization didn't understand what our ordinance was covering, and we need to make that clear so that there is no question as to where and where not it covers.
And I would just encourage participation in those public hearings as well, just because we may not have that information as well. You know, so just make sure that you're aware of when that's going to be, and that way that your points are brought to the development committee on those issues.
And it's all new territory.
Before we ever get to this point,
Yes.
by participating in the public hearings themselves, then those concerns have already been voiced and incorporated into the deal, or at least we have an idea of them before it's ever brought this far to the commission. Because when you get it to this far, I mean, after you've had public comments and public hearings and stuff on it, it's hard to say. I mean, by the time it gets here, we should be in total agreement with what's happened, because we've already had all those public comments.
We've been able to.
Because we've already had the public comments and stuff brought to this commission, and Steve's already testified in front of our commission that nobody showed up.
Yeah, and that's a P&D. So I mean, you've had.
Isn't that true?
On this.
Yes.
So we'd had 2 previous meetings in August.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to acknowledge, this is hard work putting an ordinance together. And it takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes effort on the county. And so I want to make sure that that's acknowledged. I don't want anyone to feel that your hard work has just been overlooked. Steve, thank you.
Well, the other part too is nobody was trying to do anything underhanded. I mean, this has been out there, and it's been talked about. There's been public hearings on it, and now we're changing it when we should be adopting it.
That's right. And Eddy County hates ordinances.
I would
We just
second
freaking
that.
hate them. So, but we got to have them. There needs to be some level of organization. So we're a little bit out of the purview of the meeting, because we've approved, disapproved. We have one more.
We need to adjourn this hearing.
Yep.
And then we need to go to the next item of business.
Okay, entertain a motion, we adjourn hearing 021-107.
Second.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Would now like to open a public hearing for ordinance 21-108, Eddy County Business Licensing Ordinance.
You can hang around for this next one if you like, but that's it. Go ahead, Steve. Wait, we gotta open it. Entertain a motion, we, open public hearing 21-108.
So moved.
Motion second, please call the vote.
Cordova,
Yes.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. McCroskey.
So just as with the other ordinance that we brought before you, the Planning and Development Committee met on August 8th and August 25th for the business licensing ordinance as well. Again, just to reiterate, because of the last meeting, these were public meetings that we held and advertised according to statute. We received no comment. We received no visitors at those meetings. It was staff and the Planning and Development Advisory Committee that were in those meetings. The business licensing ordinance will work if the cannabis ordinance is passed. Will work in conjunction with that. Those businesses, all businesses that operate within the unincorporated areas of Eddy County will have to come in, obtain a business license from Eddy County. Those fees, should you adopt them through the subsequent resolution R2195, are very minimal. $25 fee, renewal yearly, $15 late fee for non-renewals or late renewals, and a $5 duplicate fee, mostly to cover the cost of supplies and such to produce the items. Again, I just want to reiterate on that this would apply to all businesses operating within the unincorporated areas of Eddy County.
That's all businesses.
All businesses.
It's more of a feature of being able to recognize what businesses there are within the county. Last couple of years, we had some challenges with businesses that were leasing spaces for RV trailers and campers and things like that. And so it's really just as shown by the fee structure, it's an opportunity for the county to understand what's happening with the county limits outside of the municipalities and the unincorporated areas. So regardless of if you were gonna, I think we talked about it, might exclude Commissioner Beard's tomato stand out in front of his house as that may not qualify as a business. That's more of a donation process,
but it helps us control, because there's businesses that are in business that we know nothing about.
Absolutely right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And doesn't this align with what we've discussed about allowing like the fire department to come in and inspect? This is part of that process.
Yes. So if a business, if a building needed an inspection by the state fire marshal, then we put provisions in place where Eddy County Fire and Rescue people could, through the delegation of the state fire marshal, do that inspection, and the businesses wouldn't have to wait for the state fire marshal to come down here. And that we've had instances where that's been.
Plus, basically, for the personal property tax rendering and stuff, it would definitely help us in that area, because if you don't know there's a business, you don't know that there's a rendering that needs to take place.
Absolutely.
And one thing I wanted to add into that too, it also helps in planning. Sure. What businesses are where, how they're growing, where it's growing. If one area, we can look back, we can map these things out, figure out what businesses are growing in what area, or where the businesses are growing, where the commercial industry is moving, and it helps us to plan, helps us to develop improved roads in those areas, lots of different things.
I think it's objective data that we'll be able to have. I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Are we in any way responsible if we issue business licenses and buildings are not up to code?
I don't believe we are.
Okay.
It's up to the owner to meet those.
We're not issuing an occupancy license, we're just giving you a right to do business in Eddy County.
Perfect. So, how easy is this to get? You show up, you pay your $35, and you get it right then? How's it work?
Depending on how the structure's set up with the fire code, there may be some subsequent inspections that have to take place. I don't know. We haven't worked out all the finite details of stuff, but the largest majority of stuff is going to be turned in the required information that's going to be on the application and checklist, and we review that to make sure all the information is correct and submitted, and then we produce the license.
How long does that take?
I don't know. Having not done it,
I tell you what I want is I don't want it to take any time at all. I don't want it to take a week to get this done. Because I can walk into City Hall right now and go get a license for $35. Like I can walk out in 5 minutes if I have my EIN number, if I have address, if I have all those things. I can walk in and walk out with my license. So can we make this the same?
I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
Depends on how overwhelmed I am.
I would imagine at the beginning.
By looking at things at the beginning, several thousand businesses are going to come in. It's the hardest part is going to be the initial input of the information into the system. It may take 10, 15, 20 minutes to get that in. Once we get that information in, the renewals, once we get everything lined out, the renewal process may even be able to take place online.
Oh, perfect.
I have the ability through our program, but I don't have the confidence in the program.
We can submit it online too.
It can be once we get all the bugs worked out of the online portal for the system.
I just don't want you slowing things down.
Yeah. No, I presently manufactured home permits, placement permits, RV park permits, typically take 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. So we won't. Comments?
I think it's a good idea. I think it gives us insight to what's happening.
Have we got
public comment, don't we?
Staff comments still?
No.
Yes. We need to take public comments. Are there any public comments related to this ordinance? Seeing none, we then move to county attorney comments.
Just one comment on Commissioner Cordova's comment that it helps with the fire code and regulation. It looks like this ordinance does a pretty good job of saying the fire and rescue can go out and check to make sure it's safe, or they can make the decision, we don't need to go look at it, or they can temporarily grant a license while they look into it. So it's well protected, because I got a feeling if you have 400 businesses come in when this ordinance goes into effect, you can't have your fire people look at every building. That gets back to your timing. So.
No, that's fine. I mean, as long as we're not hitting people, I mean, because they're operating right now.
And it is good that they'll have to come in and present their tax ID number, because then you can make sure they're paying their gross receipts tax too.
Let me ask you this question. When you go get a city license, you don't have to have an inspection of your building. You have to have an inspection of your building upon occupancy. Couldn't we separate the two of these?
So this doesn't say you have to have an inspection of your facility, does it?
I don't believe it's mandatory, no.
It's under paragraph 11.1. It says, upon acceptance of initial business license of any given business, shall conduct the application they'll send it to the county fire and rescue, may, but is not required to, conduct a fire inspection if it deems it's necessary for the safety, health, and welfare of the general public. So it may, not shall.
The state fire marshal can show up any day he wants to.
Right, but yeah.
Yeah. As long as their business license issuance is not contingent on that.
Right, so if somebody files a business license and probably says, I want to run a daycare, they may say, we want to go out there and look at this to make sure it's safe for a bunch of kids to be in.
Yes.
So it's May, so it's not mandatory that they do.
They could get the license, and then the list would come from Steve's group to fire and rescue. Then they they would look at the list and say, hey, we should go look at that. Business license would have been established, it wouldn't be prohibited by that. They would just require, hey, we just want to make sure.
Before you open the facility, you've got to have that inspection. I mean, that makes sense. But it has nothing to do with the business license.
Has nothing to do with the county, has nothing to do with the business license.
Yeah.
And none of that, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, you know, especially pertaining to fire code, is not going to be retroactive. If there's a new business coming in, you know, and we're going to send the stuff to Josh and his group, but I seriously doubt that they're going to go out on all the businesses that come in and register it that are already in place. They're not going to be going out and doing the fire inspections on those just.
And you're not going to hold the license while that list goes out and comes back. You're going to issue the license.
Right.
As long
as going to do whatever they're going to do.
As long as the issuance of the license isn't contingent on this happening, then I'm good, because there's going to be a lot of people that want to have a business, that have a business in their home, that want a license, a county license, that are not even, I mean,
absolutely,
you're not coming into my house.
Well, there's no occupancy, you know, there's nothing like that that would bring.
Yeah, at that point, I mean, is all we're looking
That's an occupancy thing.
Is all we're looking for is, like, if you're going to be storing, say, chemicals out in your garage or something like that.
Yeah, but that's an occupancy.
Yeah, that.
Not your license.
After the fact thing. So
your license to do business is different from your license to have a facility.
We're using it to gather the information of where we'll need to go and do an inspection. Majority of what we do will just be
yeah, because you'll get that list of license, but that's totally different from the license in the facility.
Commission comments.
I think I've said how I feel. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, you gotta keep us in line over here. Cash usually yells at us. So you
He meaner than I am.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to pipe up. Commissioner Carlson, you have anything else to say, or?
I've already said it.
You got air? I'm good. There's an agriculture exemption in there, so your tomatoes can stand doesn't worry about that. Okay.
Works for me.
All right, good deal. Josh, see any problems?
No, sir. I think it's a great thing to have. So.
Good deal.
All right. We're good.
You're good.
I'm good. Yes.
You want to have lunch at some point today?
No, I don't, do I look like I need lunch?
All right. Entertain a motion that we approve ordinance. I was corrected on this via text a minute ago. It's not 0. It's O. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
What? I make a motion that we approve public or ordinance O-21-108.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Motion second. Please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
So I'm really disappointed that y'all are taking corrective feedback from the Public Works Director. I'll just leave it there.
No problem. I still entertain one more motion that we adjourn the public hearing O-21-108. See, I almost said 0 again.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 4 is the RFP bid awards. IFB 21-11, West Loop.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Morning.
Anicia couldn't join us today, so I'll be standing in for her. IFB 2111 was for the West Loop portion Lee Street through Hackberry Draw. We did solicit this back in August 13th. We received 2 bids, one from J&H and one from Constructors. J&H was the lowest overall bid and deemed responsive, so therefore we are recommending award to J&H in the amount of $1,747,353.03. We also do need to point out that this in particular bid will need a budget adjustment. Jason originally budgeted $3.5 million for the West Loop. We currently have about $626,000 left over. So we will need another budget adjustment in the amount of $1.1 million to go along with the award of this bid.
Commissioner Cordova, you have any questions?
I don't.
No. No, you're good with this, everything looks all right to you?
Ready to go.
Bid tabs look fairly close, so.
Yes.
Everything's good, looks like we got a good
The
competitive.
margin
Yeah,
together.
looks like got a good competitive bid, so, okay. Is this, we need to approve this and also the budget adjustment to go along with it in the same motion, is that correct, Roberta, is that what I'm hearing? Or,
If you approve this, you'll be approving that budget adjustment with it. I just want to point that out because it is a large amount.
okay, good deal.
All right, I make a motion that we approve IFB 21-11 West Loop, Lee Street through Hackberry Draw bid award.
Okay. Got a motion and a
Second.
second, please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. That'll go a long ways in moving that West Loop forward, so thank you very much.
You got a name for the West Loop yet, Burns?
West Loop.
West Loop Road, all right, just checking.
We're waiting.
Got some options.
No, I figured you would, but we're outside of the agenda item, it's already been approved. We'll have
This
to
is where
discuss
Cass
it.
yells at us.
Yeah. See, there you go, Jay.
He usually makes like herding cats, isn't it?
It is, it's just.
He gives you a warning with the faces, and then he says.
All right. We'll now move into the training agenda. Item number 1 is approve expense approval report for September 2021.
All right, any questions?
No.
Oh, and motion that we approve expense approval report 2021.
So moved?
Second.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item is the Safety Net Care Pool certification.
Love this one. Any questions?
What will we do? Miss Veronica.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. Okay.
Hey, I'm here today for the approval or recertification for the Safety Net Care Pool for this first quarter.
No pertinent information that's gonna change our vote one way or the other? Okay, sounds good.
No getting out of it.
Any questions, comments? Entertain a motion, we approve, Safety Net Care approvals, Safety Net Care certification for public funds fiscal year 2020.
So moved.
2022.
Second?
Motion second, please call the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Veronica.
Thanks, Veronica.
Item number 3 is the donation of 4 2016 Dodge Ram 1500 pickups to Guadalupe County Sheriff's Office and 2 Silverados 1500 pickups to the City of Artesia Municipal Airport.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. This is something that we've kind of gotten into doing with the fact that as fortunate as we are here in Eddy County, there's some counties that are a little less fortunate when it comes to finances and budgets constraints. So whenever some of the sheriff's offices around the state, instead of going and auctioning off our vehicles once they've hit their end of service with us, I offer them out to the sheriffs around the state, and it's been a big benefit to them because even though these vehicles might have 100,000 miles on them, which for our service life, that's the end of it. That's actually a serviceable vehicle for them compared to some of the stuff that they have out there on the roads. So these 4 Dodge Rams have they've ended their useful service life with us. And to give you a little history, when I got here, 80,000 was the mileage cap. I bumped it up to 90, and I've bumped it up to 100 since then because the vehicles are pretty durable, even though we put them through a lot. The modern vehicles you can put a little more miles on them. So the end of service life for us is 100,000 miles. These will be a big boon to Sheriff Mata in Guadalupe County. We've helped him out before. And then the 2 Silverados, you can tell they're 08s and 09s. They've been run down pretty good, but it'll be a benefit to them to have them just to run around on the airport in Artesia. So unfortunately, Commissioner Henry isn't here to say go Bulldogs, but I'll let Commissioner Beard do that for him. So Actually, I think this probably saves I hope it saves the finance department a little trouble of having to go and auction these off, and we don't really get much for them anyway. So that's what this is all about.
Well, I love it. I love that we can help other communities out, you know, it's great, so thank you.
Questions, comments? Entertain a motion.
I'm good. Yeah.
Entertain a motion, we approve the donation of 4 2016 Ram 1500 pickups, Guadalupe, and 2 Chevy pickups 1500 to the city of Artesia.
So moved.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Sheriff. All right. Next item on the agenda is getting the commission's direction and recommendation regarding state senate, state representative districting maps. Included in the package were maps that had previously been generated by the Citizens Redistricting Committee organization that the state put in place. I put some maps in there with that. Let's start with the New Mexico State Senate maps. What I want to come away from this with is a recommendation from the Eddy County Commission that I can then take to the Citizens Redistricting Committee as a voice from Eddy County on these recommended district boundaries. City of Carlsbad has already made their recommendation about a month ago. I wanted the CRC to be aware that there are many voices in Eddy County, and I wanted to be sure that Eddy County Commission's voice was recognized in that process. So I don't know if you want to look at, I made my recommendations in the package that I provided for you. If you want to look at some of those maps, we can maybe get Miss Rosie to, if I give her the web address, can we pull it up so they can look if they want to look?
See it on the screen, or do we need to?
Yeah, I'd love to see it on the screen.
We can put it up there.
I know which one I want.
Do you have paper copies? I think I've got some.
Here, those are the.
I like the one that allows Eddy County to have its own senator.
So that was similar to the recommendation that the city of Carlsbad made. My suggestion was that right now we have multiple senators who look out for Eddy County, and we have a great relationship with all of them. I think that having multiple voices is an important aspect, but that's my opinion. We need to make sure whatever the commission recommends, that we understand where those boundaries are relative to the incumbents. And so if you just scroll down there, you'll see, go to the Senate District Map Concepts tab on the left. Yep, there you go. Okay. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see Concept A for Eddy County has, in essence, 2 senators, basically one for 90% of Eddy County, and then I believe, is it Senator Pirtle comes down and picks up the agriculture in Artesia. Scroll on down. Concept B. And these were drawn after the feedback from the city of Carlsbad. So concept B is very similar
Concept A, although it extends over into southern Lee County for one Senate district, excludes part of Hobbs and expands a little bit up into Roswell. If you scroll down, Senate Concept C, fairly similar, less around the city of Artesia. It looks like the city of Artesia would be in the same district as Carlsbad. We would lose Senator Kernan, we would lose Senator Gallegos. There would be still some from Senator Pearl and a new senator for the rest of Eddy County. Scroll on down, please. Concept D. That's interesting. That wasn't in there before. So that's something specific to Southwest New Mexico. So that was recently added. There's another recommendation that was pending, a group that has yet to be loaded here, and that's this one. It's basically very similar to what we have right now, and I'll pass this around. But we retain Senator Griggs, Senator Kernan, Senator Gallegos, and Senator Pearl, and divide up the southeast quadrant into those 4 areas. So pass that around for others.
Is this the updated one, or is this the?
This one was a work in progress about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
There was one that was drawn up yesterday afternoon, I understand, by our local legislators that probably reflects something along those same lines, where there's, in essence, 4 senators that would have a voice for Eddy County.
How do our senators feel about this? What is their feelings, feedback?
We were fortunate enough to get our local legislators together 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and all were there except Senator Griggs, who was on assignment up to Petroleum Energy Summit that was going on in Montana. But they were all in favor of something along the lines that we have right now. Senator Griggs' district would have to change a little bit because with the growth that's occurred in southeast New Mexico, principally Lee and Eddy County, districts would have to shrink a little bit to match up the populations. So the specific boundaries would be slightly different than they exist today, but they were in favor of trying to keep the principal constituents that they have right now. So,
in the beginning, I was kind of with the mayor, get our lone one senator back. But after listening to some of the arguments, particularly Mr. Davis, I'm kind of liking the idea that if we need something done in Santa Fe, we've got 3 senators in our corner. 4. It's a pretty strong argument for me.
Well, we got a lot of support in Santa Fe, so they love us up there.
They'd have to direct their wrath at 4 instead of 1.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I know that one map is not complete yet, but that's a pretty good rendering.
Yes.
And how they had done it is they had cut Catherine out. Is how that when zoom in on those and they had cut Catherine out and essentially had Catherine and Jim running for the same.
So that's in the House side. This is the Senate side, right?
Yeah.
This is the Senate side, right?
Yeah. Well, we can talk about the House side in a minute because that's what was done in that. Right. But the Senate side, if we can get Pearl, Kernan, Griggs, and Gallegos, man, we've got a ton more representation, and they all come into Carlsbad on some of those maps, which they would all be beholden to us somewhat, which I think is the best of all worlds there. So.
See, and I kind of disagree with that. I think that nobody has the interest of Eddy County at heart better than a resident of Eddy County. And I've seen that when we were up, of course, COVID, they didn't have the open session, but the last open session we went to, I don't even think you were on board, Al, was when we went to Senator Griggs to talk about, there was a project that we were wanting that all the other senators were ready to put money to. He told us people that went to talk to him that he didn't think he could support that because he thought that he was going to take his money and put it in Cloudcroft and Sunport and those other areas, and he didn't see how he could support money coming to Eddy County. And I tell you, that doesn't have the interest of Eddy County at heart. And that, I understand that it's the betterment of the state, but when you're a senator from Eddy County, you have Eddy County at heart. And I don't think I could ever change my opinion of that because I'm a commissioner for Eddy County. That's what I want to look out for, is our best interest. And when you bring somebody from across the mountain to represent parts of Eddy County, I don't think you get the best representation. I don't think I can ever change my mind on that.
Understand that.
I don't want to oppose your opinion, but share my experience with Senator Gallegos and Senator Kernan and Senator Griggs. My experience has not been as harsh as what you described. I think on things that we've brought to them, they've worked hard for us in that regard. I haven't had as much experience with Senator Pirtle.
In that case, Senator Kernan and at that time Senator Lavelle from Eunice was in place. Both of those supported bringing infrastructure money to Eddy County. That wasn't the case when we're dealing with somebody that has a different interest at heart, totally removed. I mean, you don't think about that mountain being a barrier, but that mountain is a barrier.
And Greg is typically less involved over here. You see him in far less functions than you do Kernan and Gallegos, and Pirtle not yet, I guess, but
that's my problem.
Yeah, you see that, and I see is, like I said, I'm like, I'm not opposing your view. I 100% see that, That's why we got Jerry, because we want somebody that was Eddy County, and just to go up there and beat the door down for Eddy County. That was our whole discussion in getting Jerry, and that's the, that's what we have here. But we will only have one vote if we just have one, if we just have one guy, and that's how I look at it. Is I say, well, shoot, maybe if we just get Gay on board for one deal, it's the same effect as if we just have one. One senator for Eddy County. I mean, if Gay's the only one that goes with us, I think we've got a lot more. Opportunity to have more support with Gay or Gallegos or Pirtle or Griggs, and if we had all four, and we'd have Greg, the chances are we're not going to get all four, but maybe we could double our support by getting just two of the four. But
as long as we have Gallegos and
as long as they're benevolent souls, yeah,
they're going to. I mean, they're contiguous to us. What's good for us is good for them, and what would be good for them will be good for the Eddy County senator as well, I think. And so I don't think we lose anything there because we may or may not have a voice on the other side of the mountain. Right. But I'm okay with that because we've got three of our voices right here that we're always going to have, because we're going to work with those areas that Gay Kernan and David Gallegos are out of. So I'm good with not having them having a part of Eddy County because we got our guy that is a part, and if we elect the right guy to go to Santa Fe, that guy is a motivator and a negotiator and can get those things done, and they're going to be on board with him because he's going to support those things that are important to them.
So I think that the population and the counties recommends a district boundary that incorporates three senators.
Oh, I'm on board with that.
So we could make that recommendation and CRC could incorporate that. I don't think it'd be hard at all to.
I think that's the way it makes no sense to me right now that, I mean, Senator Griggs is a good guy. I like him. He doesn't have the same importance of Eddy County that I think we need from a senator. And we need those 3 votes, and if we can divide it up so that we keep Senator Gallegos and we keep Senator Kernan, and then we have one to support Eddy County, I think it's the best of all worlds.
Is that a fair recommendation for the Senate districts then from the commission?
Maybe pull in more Portal and less Griggs if that's possible.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those squidgy things, you know, when you squeeze it one way, it squeezes out the other way. I don't think that's a problem. I think there's enough population.
Oh, I do. I definitely think
to balance that up. I think I forget the target on the Senate is 50,000-ish.
50,000 per senator.
I think that's what it is. So we can make that recommendation to CRC. So let's, if you would, go then to the House District map tab, Ms. Rosie. All right. So scroll down. This one we may have to go to the link. Some of these maps at the state scale look like it's the way it is today. But if you look closer, the way the boundary's drawn, it may exclude the incumbents, Representative Brown or Representative Townsend, depending on how they were drawn. I think Representative Townsend and Representative Brown have worked hard for Eddy County, and you know,
I don't dislike this, except for we need to draw it so that they do remain in office.
Right.
This would be great if we make sure that
the incumbents are within their appropriate.
Yeah, we don't need to change the center line, essentially.
Right.
Correct.
We're okay with that.
Well, if we do, we don't need to change it for a few blocks to move.
Yeah.
Move both into the same district.
So I kind of like what I'm looking at right here, because we keep those 2 guys that are important to us.
The link will allow us to look, right, that orange one right there, the brown one. Click on that. That'll allow you to zoom in on Eddy County. So if you just zoom in, scroll in, let's see, or maybe you have to use the plus. There you go.
You know, is anybody mad at Commissioner Henry for not making it today? Like, is somebody just mad at him?
Scroll in.
I bet he's going to be mad that he didn't make it today.
We're doing all this cool stuff.
I spoke to him this morning, and just a little bit more. I think that includes Representative Brown, because she would be just up. Yeah, so that one would include Representative Brown, and then slide it down. Do you know where Representative Townsend lives, Jerry?
Yes, north side of
So slide on down a little bit, so we can see Artesia. Okay, so then that would be within his district.
I can't help but one snarky comment. I can't not believe that this was not done intentionally.
I don't know how the committee takes their input, but
Maybe not from the committee, but somebody had some input into this. I mean, anybody can look up 2 addresses and see who's where.
so the recommendation would be to have the District 54 and 55 boundaries such that they include the current incumbents.
And that looks like it does.
Well, I mean, do we have to change it at all? I mean, just based on population growth? We don't, does population growth force us to change it currently?
It depends on the number of precincts in those particular districts and the alignment of certain groups, but I don't think this would change appreciably. There are some other maps in there, so if you want to back out of that one and then just scroll down to the others, there are some wild ones in there. It's like, holy cow.
Well, when I was looking through this, I was like, holy cow, exactly.
Yeah, so if you scroll down to concept B, again, this was a statewide one, but, you know, so that one, see, that one changes to where it excludes Representative Brown because of the North District comes down past her residence. Scroll down to concept C. And that one, again, I'm not sure why you would draw it like that. This is wild. But again, it would exclude Representative Brown. Scroll down.
Does anyone else notice the chip above Las Cruces? They put in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's green there, it was red up above, that's why I saw it.
So here, again, they're
Hatch.
Yeah, I like that one.
southern Lee County moves over and picks up Loving.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And this is all based on the population of the municipality.
No, it's based on the recommendations that came to the CRC in the input they've collected.
The public.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, with the census come out, you have to proportion your representatives based on population throughout the state. So you don't look at city lines, you don't look at county lines, you just say, can I draw a box around a certain number of people, whatever that number of people is.
So the boundary edges are precincts, voting precincts.
Yeah.
So so they get a certain number and try and balance up the number. When Rosie went to the link on the right side, it showed the numbers for each of those districts and how they tried to balance all of those. But again, some of that balancing, if you do some balancing here, it has some effect on other districts. And there are a lot of districts in the state that lost population. So those would be looking to expand their boundaries and pick up additional precincts where Eddy and Lee County had increases in population, and so some of those boundaries might shrink a little bit to balance the population within a particular district. So you can scroll down to D, it's another wild one. E here, like, what?
Jesus, that's stupid.
That might be the technical term for it. But yeah, I don't.
Is there a requirement that they've got to draw so many maps? Like they've got to put 3 or 4 maps out?
I think these are just going to be recommendations that go to the state.
Okay, so they're, you know.
And the state legislators are going to do the voting. Yeah, that this is all just input from the state commission CRC that will go to the legislative folks. And then they may or may not incorporate any of this when they draw their map.
Isn't there a meeting today?
So there's a meeting this afternoon in Roswell. Jerry and I spoke. What I would like to do, as I mentioned at the beginning, is take county's commission's recommendation, put it on county letterhead, and submit it officially to CRC, which we're allowed to do. Jerry was going to attend the meeting this afternoon. If you like, and we have a recommendation, he could carry that recommendation, and if he can get recognized at the committee meeting, he could speak, and then we'll send them the letter on county letterhead. So, so the recommendation for the House districting, New Mexico State House districting, is to have 2 representatives that with boundaries that incorporate the current incumbents.
That's right.
Minimal changes to the existing.
Well,
Technically, this could include, if they wanted to swap a line or two, technically this could include both incumbents. We just want to change the map as little as possible, including both incumbents, because we don't want that little.
That's good clarification. That's good clarification.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more, if you would indulge me, please. Go to the congressional district map, please. All right. So this is the 3 congressional seats that we have. So there are 6 or 8, I think it goes through G. So this one has most of southern New Mexico. The Albuquerque area spills down into, is that Sandoval County down there? Scroll on down to Concept B. Again, just slightly difference, Grants is in, Grants is out, Hobbs is in, Clovis is in, Clovis is out. Slide down, please. Again, there are different reasons for what blobs get included, excluded. If you would go to, D's the next one. D's not a bad one.
I think that's the one I liked.
So this has most of Bernalillo County, majority of Santa Fe, and then picks up some of the stuff in the far east for the southern district. Go to G if you would. I think G has another that Commissioner Beard would like. That one's similar. So this is getting here. F. So you basically have City of Albuquerque, Rio Rancho. You have the northern part, which has most of the tribal communities, and here you get more rural effect. So this is F. And
That's my pick, rather.
Yeah. And then slide down to G, and I don't remember if it was terribly different than F.
It is G.
Oh, that was G. Okay. Okay. So there is a lot of rural, urban issues within the state. This, I think, you have Rio Rancho and Albuquerque. You have the northern parts that allow the tribal governments to have a voice. And here you get the majority of the rural community, but it excludes McKinley and San Juan as the other big rural populations. I tend to favor one where you have more rural input for this U.S. representative. So, what recommendation would you like from the commission?
Does the blue incorporate Santa Fe, or is that just Bernalillo?
Just looks like just Bernalillo and Rio Rancho. Santa Fe would be in District 1 or 2. One. So
we're, the third would just be, yeah, I see how this works.
So, in that sense, as it sits right now, Representative Harrell would pick up that portion of the state. Because right now it's sort of like a layer cake, I think.
That would make her untouchable, and they're not.
Yeah, that would be the most beneficial to her, is that one there.
That's what they've got in mind.
He's the one that keeps Grant out of our district.
So do you have a recommendation for the congressional seat? G? Was that yes?
Yes.
For sure. Cordova.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming to look at. I'll say that. I mean, I'm going to support what's going to be best for Eddy County. So, I thought Ernie, I thought your points, I mean, it's valid, it's true, you know. I mean, who has our best interest at heart?
Right. Could we move the federal, so we just have our own representative?
I'm not sure that was an option that the state would consider, but maybe
mean, now they're giving Rio Rancho and Albuquerque their own.
I don't know that we have enough juice. We don't balance up on the population numbers.
What we lose in population, we make up for in revenues.
And spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Is Jerry
Based
gonna
on
be able to
revenues,
share
we have
his
most of it.
thoughts?
And we've had 2 of the 3.
Right now, or another part, or?
So I don't know what is required to be recognized at that committee meeting this afternoon.
Well, if I can, I'll also say a couple of things.
Sure.
Okay. Not to barge in, I apologize.
Yeah, I've been attending all these, so it's interesting. I think what's important to the board right now is to know that touching on these right now is one of the things to kind of address Commissioner Carlson's thoughts a little earlier. In the situation where we have the 3 senators or we have the most representation for this area, always remember that each one of those folks has a bucket of money. I think that's the important thing. They have a bucket of money, and to me, I know historically they have been very generous in supporting out of their bucket of money things that we're doing in Eddy County. Your point well taken with Senator Griggs. He has commitments too. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, I just thought.
And I agree with that. The trouble is, that bucket of money, I want it here in Eddy County.
I understand.
You know, so if we had 3 buckets of money, the bucket in Eddy County, the bucket with David Gallegos, and the bucket with Gay Kernan, then their interests align with our interest.
Correct.
You know, so then we got 3 buckets of money for Southeast New Mexico.
Back to the redistricting maps that we just looked at. One of the things that has happened is that the maps you're seeing here are concept maps based off of information that the committees have received. One of the things that we were everyone was kind of struggling with there a moment ago is why they look so weird, okay? And one of the things this committee is addressed, is actually assigned to do, is to look at communities of interest and basically different ethnic groups, okay? So a lot of those squiggly ones are drawn around those interests, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing in some of those districts. It's based on that. It's based on population, but they draw those lines around the population to also take in those community interests, which have been, and I'll add this, those communities of interest are very, very vocal in these meetings. Every meeting, they're very vocal. As of last Friday and Saturday, and as of recently as yesterday, in the western part of the state, going up to the South Valley of Albuquerque, don't forget, it's not too late to submit maps. So there are other maps being considered. These aren't chiseled in stone as the only options that that committee will submit to the legislature for consideration. I want you to know that. That's highly important when we start picking out what maps we want.
How much input do we have?
How much what? I'm sorry.
How much do they listen to us?
How much influence do we have?
Input. I mean, yeah, we say, hey, Eddy County wants CD2 concept D, or G, excuse me.
I think we have as much influence as anyone. That's not a good answer.
Well, if you get the rest of those counties to recommend the same thing, would they?
Yes, that would have a huge influence, and I think your question's well taken, Commissioner, is that what we have to see is what our neighbors want and have that consistent message with our neighbors. Because I can tell you that there's a citizens group that introduced a map in the last few days that is not favorable when it comes to our congressional district, and they are being very vocal, and they're mounting a lot of folks out there and a lot of voices to do that. And that map would actually take in the South Valley of Albuquerque, the west side of Albuquerque, and come all the way around and split Hobbs. South side of Hobbs would be in District 2, north side of Hobbs will be in District 1. That is a map, I'm going to tell you, that our people that we consider not our friends like, and they're pushing it very hard.
When is the due date, or when's the close date for maps?
October the 15th is when this group is supposed to submit their recommendations as far as the legislature.
So we're just talking a week,
We're not talking much time.
10 days.
10 days.
Correct. So, Commissioner Carlson, your point's well taken in that what we need to do, we need to move pretty quickly on.
How vocal are you being?
I'm being very vocal. There's the only problem with that is right now is we know what we want, and the committee. I need direction from the commission to tell the committee what we want.
Well, I think you've heard it here today.
And that's well, haven't seen a vote yet. But anyway, once we vote on these, and I can be vocal at that meeting. At the same time, as Al and I spoke yesterday, it's very important that we send written, not only vocal standing up, but send the written to them and also see what our neighbors are wanting.
We don't vote on this. This is just.
Not a vote, but a recommendation. Okay. Excuse me, terminology was incorrect. I apologize.
Okay.
But I think it would be an obvious point to make that the new map is very obviously gerrymandering. I mean,
The meeting today, and as I mentioned, I think to a few of you last time, I was kind of disappointed that we did not have more of our representatives there. I'm going to say this, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but you know, there's a lot of folks that believe that the decision's already been made as far as the legislature goes, because the ultimate decision, Commissioner Carlson, is with the legislature. Right. So when you say how important is our voice is as loud as we can scream, but also the thing about it is sometimes screaming doesn't do any good.
I just remember when they were talking about chairs at the table.
Exactly.
We were lacking.
Yes. And in the population. The new map, I was very surprised, which I'm talking about, the new map that doesn't favor us as far as the CD2 goes. They're very articulate in that, and those populations are down even lower tolerances than what's required by the committee by taking in that part of the South Valley.
You know,
and the south side of Hobson.
But as weak as we may look, we can't give up.
No. I'm a fighter. I don't believe in giving up, and that's what I'm saying. I think the voice is very important. I can tell you the voice is very important to the committee because and when I say that qualified by saying that once people talk, the committee is asking questions of those people who are standing up and talking. Why do you want this? What are your feelings on this? What are you looking for? A lot of the folks are, I believe, because I watch them, that they're being persuaded to stand up and say what they're saying. I'm just saying that. I'm the guy that watches that body language.
who appointed them?
Excuse me?
Who appointed them? The folks on this commission?
Who appointed them? They were selected by that piece of legislation that allowed representation, like Representative Townsend was a floor leader, minority floor leader. He was able to pick one. Other folks are able to pick one. And then there's a couple at large that are picked, Commissioner Beard.
What do our surrounding, what do they want?
I think we already know that Carlsbad made their suggestion. Carlsbad's the only one that I can say locally that has actually made a suggestion. I have not heard any other county or municipality make a suggestion for our part of the world except for Carlsbad. I have not personally heard that. It may happen today, but I have not heard anything. Now, Al may have been talking to some folks that I haven't been.
So the notes that I've scribed for the recommendation, the Senate District recommendation would be to incorporate 3 senators for Eddy County. That includes Senators Kernan, Gallegos, and Pirtle for a third. Is that how we said that? We said three senators.
Senators?
3 senators in the Senate districts. The House districts only modify current districts as little as possible, retaining current incumbents. And then Congressional District Concept G from the CRC. So we just need to make sure we have the wording right on the Senate districts. It's 3 senators.
3 senators, 1 coming from Eddy County.
One being small Eddy County.
Right. Okay.
current senators, Kernan, Gallegos, and Griggs do not come from Eddy County.
I know that. That's my problem.
And that's what I was wondering, which concept we were talking about.
So I don't know what's up there.
We can present another, a new concept. I think there's a concept that's out there.
Just want to make sure we were clear.
Okay. So any more discussion about this? We'll have.
Not for me.
Jerry's going to attend the meeting, and if he can get recognized to speak, he'll do so. We'll send them a letter from Eddy County on Eddy County letterhead, stating our recommendation to the committee. We'll copy that to our legislators, and
there won't be a problem being recognized. These meetings are 4 hours long. They're allowed for 4 hours, so it won't be hard to be recognized.
Okay.
You're on board with kind of a consensus?
All right.
So there's no action to be taken here, just recommendations.
Recommendation, yeah.
By the voice of the commission.
Recommendation for the administration to move this forward with preventive.
So we're going to move on to the resolution and agreement consent agenda. I do have a question here.
Pull item 4.
I was going to say 2197.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and we're tabling that, or just what are we doing with that item? Pulling it and.
So I think if we pull it, it's still okay. We can bring it back.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion that do you have any questions on the resolution agreement consent agenda as presented?
No.
Okay. Entertain a motion that we approve the resolution and agreement consent agenda as presented, pulling item R2197 to return at a later date.
Second.
Motion second. Please call the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Garrett?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. It's a good discussion. Elected official department head updates. Seeing none, we'll move to legislative update.
I know everybody's getting tired, and so I'll try not to put you to sleep. I just want to give you a couple of quick updates. As you know, at the last commission meeting, I wasn't here. On October the 20th, I had an opportunity to go to Gallup and meet with Representative Lundstrom, who's the chair of the House Appropriations Finance and the chair of Interim Legislative Finance Committee. She's also a member of the House Transportation Committee and is the third most ranking representative in the session at the legislature right now. We had a great meeting. We talked about the spreadsheet which we had created, which you all had seen, laying out the amounts of money that we have spent in Eddy County on roads and things like that. We had a great discussion and exchange. Representative Lundstrom was very receptive, hour and 20 minutes one-on-one with her in her office in Gallup. She was very receptive to the needs we have down here and very understanding of what Eddy County does for the state of New Mexico. I also had the opportunity of presenting her a copy of the Arrowhead report, her personal copy as I put it to her. I asked her if she'd seen it, and she said, well, you know, I mentioned Arrowhead, yeah, Dr. Peach, and I said, that's not about Dr. Peach. I said, this is about what happens in Eddy County and how much money we generate and what it means to each community in the state. And I said, by the way, I have your own personal copy, and I gave her that. So she was very receptive to that. She had questions about how much of what we're spending is on county roads and how that interconnected with highways, both state and U.S. highways. We did work with Jason. Jason got us a real good representation of that map, showing what it was, and I got that to her. But she's been in meetings ever since, and so we haven't been able to really chat. But I've been sending her emails and texts and things like that, and she was in a meeting yesterday when Al gave his presentation to the committee, and so she got to hear it again. And so if they tell him enough, hopefully she'll listen. So that was a very good meeting. Hopefully it'll produce some fruits in the future. during the session, and she is understanding of where we are with the budget as far as the state goes. I can tell you this, that she believes, she does not put a lot of faith in the infrastructure bill, which is right now in front of Congress, about when we might see that money or when we'll see it. And we stressed in our conversation to look at the money we know we have, and what we can do that with shovel-ready projects. She was very appreciative that we had recognized her comments in the interim committees along the lines of how much she likes shovel-ready projects, and she doesn't like money going back. And she was very appreciative of us recognizing that and bringing that to her attention with our projects that we have proposed. Another skip on to what else has been going on. The Environmental Improvement Board just finished Friday with a 2-week hearing on their new ozone rule for oil and gas. I tried to watch it as much as possible. It was torturous. I feel sorry for those folks on the Environmental Improvement Board, but at the same time, excuse me?
Did you hear me speak?
I didn't hear you speak. When did you speak at that? I did not. I guess
first week of last Friday.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I did not listen to all of it. I was back and forth, and I apologize, Commissioner Carlson. If I'd known you were there, I would have put it on my calendar and made note to listen. So anyway, it was I can't do it if I don't know. But anyway, in 2 weeks is a lot of hearing when it's going 13 hours a day. So yeah, if I know about these things, it's real easy for me to do. But I'm sure they were great words of wisdom. But the board was expected here to start deliberations. They finished. They'll start deliberations in January, and those deliberations will then be acted upon in accordance. I think one of the things that came from that hearing that I thought was very important is the cost benefit, or the potential cost benefit of the rule if it was actually implemented, and what that really means to the state, if there is a cost benefit, and how it would impact small operators. There's a very huge divide between small operators and big operators right now on that rule, I can tell you that. Okay. Revenue and Stabilization Tax Committee met on September the 23rd. Dr. Tisling from he's economic from Moss, and I can't remember the name of his firm, but he talked about renewable energy. A couple of things that were touched on there that I think were very important is in looking at renewables and looking at what happens with oil and gas and versus the tax base that's generated. He brought up the fact that 97.7% of everything that comes from oil and gas, from the production to the products, is taxed in some way. Okay, 97.7%. As far as renewables go, it's 2.3%. So there's a little gap there.
What is it again?
Okay, everything from the production of oil and gas through the products that are produced through oil and gas, 97.7% of that process is taxed in some way. Okay, whether it be from the plastics, the gasoline, to drilling of the well, the completion, all of that is taxed somewhere along the line. Of renewables energy sources, there's only 2.3%. And so he was pro-renewable. I mean, that's what we were talking about, obviously, in the meeting. But he said, and I'll quote this, renewables will never be able to stand on their own.
Exactly what the industry said when we did our Arrowhead presentation in Denny, is the guy from the renewable wind industry stood up and said, "You're exactly right. We can never replace oil and gas. All we can ever hope to do is to enhance oil and gas." That was right from the industry itself.
There you go.
And I wonder what that 2% is if you take into consideration the subsidies that they receive.
You know, that's we didn't delve that far, but I thought that was a huge statement, and it just continues to drive on our message from Eddy County, which I think is good. Yesterday, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham she spoke to the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association in Santa Fe. Her big message was promoting the hydrogen initiative that she hopes to introduce in a special session, which I find very interesting in that it's a budget session, but if she carries that as part of her agenda, it will be heard. So she's trying to push on to oil and gas to please explore hydrogen energy because it's greener and better for the state of New Mexico. That was brought up then. So, okay. Only other stuff I had to talk about really was the Citizens Redistricting Committee, and we've already covered that. So, any questions along anything we talked about? It's, the state's got lots of money. We've been following. I just had to run back and forth and apologize, but looking at everything that's going on right now, I mean, they know they've got a lot of money, and we're pounding the nail really hard from Eddy County to get our money down here to use what we need to get done. I want to go back a little bit to Representative Lundstrom. I failed to mention what she said, but when I gave her that sheet, she looked at that and said, "You guys sure you can do all that for $100 million?" I said, "Give us some money and we'll show you."
Any money in that for that bridge on the Pecos?
All that money was in there that we had listed, so I know that's very important to some of the commissioners, and we'll do our best to get that done, okay?
Yes, the money was there.
It was there. I know we're running long, so we can take that comment maybe for next.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, next item of business is the travel request consent agenda.
Questions, comments, items pulled, discuss. Entertaining motion, we approve the travel agreement. What is it?
Travel request consent
agenda as presented. Thank you.
So moved.
Second. Motion second. Please call with the vote.
Cordova?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. We have no emergency business, so we'll move to the legislators and elected officials' comments, announcements, and updates.
We've been here long enough. You don't need to hear me.
Thanks, Sheriff. Seeing none, County Manager, comments, announcements, and updates. You've heard a couple of times presented yesterday to the one of the panelists to the revenue infrastructure and how's her name? Transportation Infrastructure and Revenue Subcommittee, chaired by Representative Rubio from Las Cruces. And I shared the presentation with you. I sent you the slide notes. It went very well. Senator Griggs, Representative Pettigrew, who we know were on that subcommittee. Representative Brown was tuned in. Good feedback. The other two panelists were Mike Gallagher from Lee County and Mike Stark from San Juan County that wanted to hear from oil and gas areas. I talked about the impact and importance of all industries on county roads and the benefit to the state in terms of state revenues, the need to continue to manage public safety, public access, and economic development. San Juan County talked about getting a freight rail line between I-40 and Farmington. That was their principal focus. They've had some economic downturn in the sense the oil and gas business is not what it used to be up in that part of the world. They still have lots of gas wells, and $5 or $6 gas makes a big difference for them. How long that'll last, don't know. But that was their primary focus. They've had of the two major power plant facilities there. One was 2,300 and one was 2,700 megawatts. They were huge. They're down to about 400 megawatts. One mine's closed. San Juan plant will close next year. APS is, I think they're already closed. So they've lost a lot of jobs. They've lost 1,600 jobs up there. Lee County talked more about having their road infrastructure match sort of the roads that transition in from Texas are state roads, and they turn into county roads in Lee County, and they're trying to get them up to par with what would constitute a state road. We were all on similar pages, but the message I tried to leave with them is if the state's looking for a place to invest money, we provided them our report card of in the last 3 years, the $60 million that had been invested in Eddy County. 60% of that money came from the county, 30% from the state, and the remaining 10 was a mixture of federal and state grants and some industry donations. But we have a list of projects that if they're going to continue to invest money that they may have in infrastructure in the state of New Mexico, that investment in Eddy County today means people going to work tomorrow. We have shovel-ready projects. We have projects that need investment that will translate into economic benefit in short order. And investment in this area also is an investment in the state engine that currently provides a huge amount of state revenue. So why not sustain the business engine that you're riding? So, fair bit of time spent doing that. We've also been putting some focus on sustaining our vaccination clinic, testing. New Mexico Department of Health have kind of shifted focus, contrary to what we'd like them to do, but the efforts that Ms. Jennifer and Susan Molina, our local DOH person, and our other contributors has been very positive. They did 102 vaccinations yesterday, and they did 170 last Friday. Some folks are eligible for boosters now with Pfizer. Pfizer has gotten approval for vaccination for children. Again, we're just trying to do everything we can to help support citizens in the county in that regard. Roberta West and I are going to reconvene to talk about the American Rescue Plan monies that the county has received and trying to get those into the hands of some of our local. We're looking at some of the long-term care, child care opportunities that might exist. We're looking at other benefits, Lifehouse and some other organizations in town. So we hope to bring some recommendations to you in the next several weeks about where we recommend putting some of those funds. The assessors, they've had their petition hearings last couple of weeks. They've gone okay. The clerk's office, the election office, is now moving into full swing. They're always in full swing, but now it just goes into overdrive with the early voting, the absentee voting, and all those things. And so there's plenty of opportunity. If you want to vote starting today, you have that opportunity until close to the actual election, which is November 2nd. Yeah.
I believe is the last day to early vote.
And then the election date is Tuesday, November 2nd. So yeah. I think that's probably enough for me this morning, unless you have questions. All right, County Commissioner comments.
Good work on your presentation. I thought it was very well represented. Also want to congratulate Carlsbad Main Street, who hosted the Firefighters Challenge this weekend. It was a good event. There was a lot of good vendors. They worked really hard, set up, clean up, everything. So particularly Ashley Key, Jason Shirley, Susan Crockett, Kat Davis worked really hard on this event, and it's already scheduled for next year, so I just wanted to congratulate them on that. There's a lot going on this weekend. Just thank you to the county. Thank you for all the work you're doing. Really appreciate it all, so thank you.
Just kind of reiterate that I did get a chance to make comments in front of the Environmental Improvement Board. Part of my comments included our Arrowhead study. I immediately got a email from the moderator asking if she could get a copy of our Arrowhead study to pass out to all the panelists in there, that they were all interested in our Arrowhead study, so that got out to that. So I thought that was a good broad stroke on that. I don't know that they like say because, you know, I talked about how important the oil and gas, because I was talking about the economic effect of oil and gas, not only to southeast New Mexico, but to New Mexico as a whole. And one of my comments was that all businesses in New Mexico, no matter what they are in the oil and gas business, that our monies for that pervasive in the economy of the state of New Mexico. And the day that you turn off the spigot of the oil and gas industry is the day that you have bankrupt the state of New Mexico. So I did get a chance to get that message out, and as you know, they told me that there was no limit, but then found out that 5 minutes was a limit, and so they kept asking me to, if I would, to please shut up. But that's sometimes hard for me to do. That's it.
Other than to thank everybody within the county, you know, this county does, what I've seen, an exceptional job of serving our citizens. You can never say that too much. I've probably said too much today already, so I'll let it go with that.
Well, if anybody said too much today, it's probably me, so I'll keep them short, but touching on the coal plants that have been shut down in Farmington, losing 1,600 jobs, how terrible that to the economy, strictly due to overregulation of the industry, and we've lost 1,600 jobs. If we want a little comparison, there was about those plants, the two plants shut down, about 2,000 megawatt hours. Is that right? Or excuse me,
More than that. So one plant was 2,300, the other was like 2,700, and they had multiple generators in each of those two facilities, the San Juan facility and the APS facility. One is completely shut down, and they're down to 400 megawatt. And so nearly 3 gigawatts has been taken off the grid.
so but we can, so we've taken, so there's roughly 4,500 megawatts for both plants, and we're only running about 400, so about 4,000. Right. That's how much we can. 4,000 megawatt hours have been taken off the grid. So if we want a little comparison, because my mind's pretty simple, we have to compare. If you take one wind turbine is between 1 and 1.5 megawatt hour. So it just depends on how much it's running, wind, all those kind of things. So just for easy math, let's just figure it 1. So we would have 1 wind turbine per megawatt hour. So that would be 4,000 wind turbines, okay, to replace what we had on maybe a few hundred acres of coal production. Okay. So we have 4,000 wind turbines. Do you know how close you can put those wind turbines? 40 acres. Do you know how many acres that would be? 160,000 acres. Do you know how many sections that is? Try 250 square miles of wind turbines to replace 250 acres of coal production, probably. So we just need to put that in 250. What is that? An area 25 miles long by 10 miles wide, with wind turbines every 40 acres.
And that doesn't even service the whole state, right?
No. Most of that power goes to California, I believe, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah, so that all goes to California.
Phoenix and California.
Yeah. So I mean, so we've taken out. It just makes no sense at all. So anyways, just a little math for you. We've shut down 1,600 jobs, shut down 4,000 megawatt hours of coal production, of coal-fired power production, and if we're going to replace that with wind, 250 square miles or 160,000 acres to do that at 40 acres, which is as close as you can get them. And then none of these fields that they have the wind turbines in are at 40 acres. They're all at, most of them are about 100, something like that. You stack them 40 acres, you can't even see through them. So, anyways, way to go, everybody. Way to go.
I wonder how that affects, 1,600 jobs is how many families, which is a two-parent family, so that's almost 3,200 families.
Yeah, I mean, 32 kids is 6,500 all day long.
Yeah.
No, all right. We're the idiots, so that's good. I'm done. So sorry for being on edge today. All right. One more agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. Please call the vote.
Yes.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.